What Love Is This? By Dave Hunt. Chapter 1. Why this book? Can you answer some questions about Calvinism? The query came to me from a young man sitting with me and several others at a restaurant in a city where I was speaking at a conference. Why do you ask me? We heard you were writing a book about Calvinism. Yes, I am. A book, in fact, that I didn't want to write. There are fine Christians on both sides. The last thing I want to do is create more controversy. But it's a topic that really has to be faced and dealt with thoroughly. Glancing around the table, I was surprised at the sudden interest reflected on each face. Everyone was listening intently. The young man went on, I had scarcely given Calvinism a thought for years. Then suddenly, or so it seemed to me, in the last few years, Calvinism has emerged as an issue everywhere. Perhaps I'm just waking up, but it seems to me that this peculiar doctrine is being promoted far more widely and aggressively now than I was ever aware of in the past. Our church recently added a new associate pastor to the staff, a graduate of the Master's College and Seminary in Southern California, explained the young man. He introduces Calvinism in almost every session in his Bible class. Let me suggest how he might do it, I responded. He asks the class what they think comes first, faith or regeneration. Everyone says, faith, of course, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and thou shalt be saved. Then he challenges them, but mankind is dead in trespasses and sins. How can a dead man believe? I had the young man's total attention. That's it exactly. How did you know? Then he explains, I continued, that God has to give life sovereignly to those who are spiritually dead before they can believe or even understand the gospel, that regeneration must precede faith. You're right, but it seems bizarre, like having to get saved before you can get saved, said the young man. The Calvinist wouldn't put it in those precise words, I responded, but it's even a bit stranger than that. Without understanding or believing anything about God or Christ or the Bible, because the totally depraved supposedly can't until they're regenerated, the elect are made spiritually alive by a sovereign act of God, without any desire or cooperation on their part, and without even knowing what is happening to them at the time. That's exactly what he's been teaching, added another member of the same church. It doesn't make sense. I never read anything like that in the Bible. Are you the only ones who have expressed any concern? I asked. Do those who thought that faith came first accept this new concept immediately? Most do, but it has caused some confusion, and a few people have left the church. No one challenges him, I asked, with the obvious fact that spiritual death can't be equated with physical death. That physically dead people not only can't believe, but can't sin or do anything else. I guess none of us have thought of that. What does the senior pastor say? He doesn't seem to know how to handle the confusion. We never heard anything like this from the pulpit before, but now hints of Calvinism are even finding their way into his sermons. The conversation went on like this for some time. Every new aspect of Calvinism, I explained, was greeted with further exclamations of, yes, that's exactly what we're hearing. Others, from entirely different areas of the country, began to relate their experiences. One man had recently left a church that had split over Calvinism. The deacon board had voted that every member must sign a Calvinistic statement of faith. Someone else came from a church whose pastor and elders had taken a hard line against what they considered a divisive issue and had disfellowshipped a Sunday school teacher for influencing his junior high class with Calvinism in spite of several warnings. Another couple had visited a highly recommended church in a large city near their home, pastored by a well-known Calvinist author. We don't really know much about Calvinism, my dinner companions confessed, but it was a strange experience. On the one hand, we had the impression that these people felt certain they were the elect. Yet, there also seemed to be some insecurity, as though performance were a major evidence of one's salvation. As we got up to leave, a young woman who had sat through the entire discussion in silence asked if she could have a private moment of my time. We sat down again, and she began a tale of grief. She was a pastor's wife. Their lives in ministry had been happy and fruitful until her husband and two close friends, also pastors, became interested in a new truth. All three were very intellectual. As a result of reading current Calvinist authors, they had been drawn into the writings of John Calvin, Jonathan Edwards, John Knox, and others. Their study, taking them all the way back to Augustine, eventually became almost an obsession. Then each of them began to preach their new light from the pulpits. After being warned several times to desist, they were removed from their pastorates. Eventually, her husband began to worry whether he was really one of the elect. The nagging questions grew into full-blown doubts about his salvation. The Calvinism that had once seemed so satisfying began to haunt him with uncertainty. Was he one of the elect? "You were never drawn into it?" I asked her. She shook her head. "I'm not an intellectual, which may be why it never appealed to me. But isn't God supposed to be a God of love? In my simple mind, it didn't make any sense that the God of the Bible didn't love everyone enough to want them all in heaven, that Christ hadn't died for everyone, even though the Bible seemed to say that he had." Tears came to her eyes. At last she continued, "I kept trying to tell my husband that the God he was now believing in, a God who predestined people before they were even born to spend eternity in the lake of fire, was not the God I knew and loved." Troubling encounters such as these became more frequent and soon demanded deeper insight on my part into a system obviously embraced by a larger portion of the church than I had realized. It seemed so alien to everything I had believed about a God whose sovereignty did not diminish his mercy and love. For my own peace of mind, I was compelled to pursue the lengthy investigation that resulted in this book.
Please visit our website, thebereancall.org, to access our radio archives going back to 1999 and our newsletter going back to 1986. We offer daily updates by email or visit us on Facebook or Twitter. Are you looking for information about a specific topic? Go to thebereancall.org and click on Topics at the top of the page. Our online store is thebereancall.com. We offer a wide variety of books, tracts, CDs, and DVDs. Note that most of our ebooks are free. I'm Gary Carmichael. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you can join us again next week. Until then, we encourage you to search the Scriptures 24/7.
Though none go with me, I still will follow. No turning back, no turning back.